Hello and welcome, each and every one of you. With you today is me, Daiga, coach therapist from DCTcentre, and joining me today is Steve Hounsome. Steve has worked with tarot cards for over 40 years and is author of 9 books and 2 tarot card decks. He reads and teaches tarot cards as a therapeutic model, working with the cards as energy map of the client. Hello, Steve.
Hi, nicely put. Thank you. Good to be here.
Uh, Before we start, I just want to remind our viewers that we're both taking in private clients. Steve will tell you absolutely everything about what he does and how he do it and what sort of readings he does. And I'm taking in private clients for coaching and therapy. So if you need my help, I'm here to help, and Steve as well. So, Steve, floor
Yeah.
is all yours. How you first? Let's start from my very first question for everybody who joining me on show for first time.
Yeah.
Uh, how you get where you are at the moment?
Phew, do you know, it's such a big question because it's been so long now. You think, blimey, how did that happen? I don't know. Here I am. It's kind of just evolved over all these 40 years. I got into tarot when I was still a kid. Really, I was a teenager, and something about tarot attracted me. I didn't know really what it was, I didn't understand it all, kind of thing, but just something. Was reading books on the occult, and it kept mentioning the tarot, and I thought, I've got to find out. I really like the idea of this, and I bought a book, and then when I was, I think, 16, I brought a deck, and I just followed what it said in the book to do, and lots of people do. Lots of people have, like with tarot readers, they have a family background. They have a grandmother who read the cards or read tea leaves or something. None of that at all for me. It's just totally, it was just something about tarot. I had no idea why or where it came from. It was just there. So I read this book, and then with my friends, I would, try and do readings. And just, literally putting out the cards in the spread it said to in the book, and reading the bit in the book about the card, and that's what we did. But it didn't click with me. I wasn't getting it. I couldn't see why what was on this card was written in the book. I couldn't relate the picture to the words. I started, when I was doing my readings with friends, I started sort of saying to them, but it says in the book here whatever, but I don't understand that. What I see in this card is this, that, and the other. And they all started saying, oh yeah, oh wow, that makes so much sense, and if that's really good. And I was like, oh okay, great. And I've just followed that, to be honest, for 40 years. And along the line, as you said, I've been lucky enough to do the books and the decks and teach. And it somewhere along the line, I started out predicting futures like everybody does, and everybody thinks the tarot does. But somewhere along the line, it turned into this whole tarot therapy thing, really, and that's what it's become now. And that's my thing, if you like, the therapeutic model of tarot. So yeah, it's just,
tell more about this therapeutic model, because about tarot cards, many people are telling and talking about tarot cards, but about this therapeutic model, I hear first time.
Yeah, well, because that's the popular idea with tarot. As soon as you mention tarot, everybody sort of, and if I say in conversation to somebody I read the tarot, they'll say, oh, can you tell me what's going to happen to me? It predicts the futures. That's what it does. And I'll always say, no, I can't tell you what's going to happen to you. It depends on what you do, and because the future for me isn't preset. So how can we predict it? We can predict things that might happen or that are likely to happen based on the present, but nothing is fixed. I work with the idea that we create our own future now in the present moment, and obviously circumstances and things are all unraveling and evolving based on what we do, and we then make more decisions, we change our minds and hearts and so on, so the future adapts and it all unravels. So as I went on with the tarot, I couldn't see the value really in predicting future for people and trying to tell them what was going to happen, because to me it actually takes their power away, because if you think of the idea of this set of cards or tea leaves or whatever it might be tells you what's going to happen, where's your sense of power? Where's your sense of creating life the way you want it to be? So to me, it took people's power away. So the idea of the therapeutic role kind of came out of that. I just wasn't feeling comfortable with it. And when I began to look at the cards, not as meaning this, that, or the other, because I have a big collection of tarot books in a bookcase just on my left here. And when you look at all these books on tarot, they all tell you something different about what the cards mean. So I thought, well, what the hell do they mean then? If everybody says there's something different. So the conclusion I kind of came to after all these years is that, well, actually, they don't really mean anything other than what they mean to you in that moment. So that's where, to me, the cards are an energy, nothing more, nothing less. Hence this idea, as you mentioned, the energy map of the client when I'm doing a reading, but we'll get to that. So it was this idea of looking at the cards as an energy at the time the client, I'm doing the reading with the client, and based on what we, myself and the client, interpret and respond at the time, shapes their future. So I always say it's about empowering them. It's helping them to help themselves. So the client creates their own future. That's the general idea of what I'm about with the therapeutic. But I mean, there are big and important for me reasons why you can work with the tarot in that way, and we'll explain that for people in a minute.
But really, that means somebody coming to you, you doing the reading, and you from tarot cards telling this person what they have to change to get better, or something like that.
To a degree, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because it's not just telling people what's going to happen. It's none of that at all. So if we look, I'll explain the structure of a tarot and the way I work with it in a moment, which will help, I think, answer what you're kind of picking up really there. But you're absolutely right. It's it's a two-way discussion. It's not me saying, okay, now this card means this, that, and the other. That's that card done. The next card is about this, that, and the other. And so it's not me talking at the client. It's my explaining the card. We can have a look at it together. And the client may, I might say, well, what sort of feelings do you get from this card? What does this stir up for you? And I can maybe explain some of the idea behind the card, the influence of the number and the suit and so on. We might look at symbols, different associations that can be made. And then it's the power, if you like, with a tarot card is in the way that we respond to it. So it represents this energy that's active in the client's life or in themselves. And my task, if you like, as the tarot reader, is to help them respond to that in the best way possible for them so that they get what they want from it. Does that make some sense?
Yeah, sort of. It's really, I was asking about you telling client and showing client what needs to be changed for the client to be better. So really, yeah. It is, you see in the cards, you explain those cards, and then from this energy, this client at the moment have some energy stuck here and there, and then if he changes, he can change the result of everything. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I'll explain how it works a bit more by explaining the structure of a tarot, but maybe let's demonstrate. I've literally just found out the deck I use, or I'm using at the moment, and selected a card for you. Now, I'm not going to get too personal, so don't worry. But the card I've picked out, if I can, I don't know how well people...
If it's something personal, then you will tell me after show.
Absolutely, yeah. So I've picked out this card. It's not too easy to see because they're quite shiny, but hopefully people can see the idea. This is the Eight of Swords. Okay. Now, the Suit of Swords for me, I'll explain more in a moment, but this is about our mind. And this, so relating it to you, the number 8 can be where we reach a sort of certain level, but there needs to be something more. It's as if there's a lot going on in the mind, but there's a missing link almost for you. This is what I'm sensing at the minute. So this is about a need to set your mind free, almost as if what you're needing is just like a clear channel of communication. In some ways, it's about you having more confidence in your own thoughts and in your own mind. Okay, so but I can then perhaps, I don't know again how well you can see this, Daiga, but if I hold it up, I might perhaps ask, what feelings do you get when you look at this person in the card? How does she look to you? And then you would respond with whatever, and we can discuss and then maybe take another card in response to that, and so it goes on. But I might suggest here, I give people homework in their readings quite a lot. So something here, where we've got all the swords, I'll hold the card up again, where we've got all these swords in the cards surrounding this lady. The swords for me are, when I said it's about what's going on in the mind, and the swords are stuck in the ground all around our brave lady here. So the swords for me represent different thoughts or different thought patterns or her state of mind. So I might suggest for the client to write down the things that you feel in this case might limit your mind, just making a list of those things, all the self-doubts you might have, or the doubts or the questions that come up in your mind, to make a list of those, and then you can burn that list to release it, and give it out to the universe. And then there might be an affirmation based on this card I could offer you to use to help replace that energy mentally that you've burned and introduce a much more creative, more empowering state of mind. So that's just very basic, but that's an example of how. So it's not, hopefully you can see from that, it's not me saying this is what you will do and what you need to do. It's saying, here's an explanation of what's going on at this level for you, and here's something you might like to try to help shift it. So it's working with the card literally as an energy. Okay.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's really interesting. How you came to write the books? You have 9 books. What they all about?
Well, that came about through the tarot, really, because what I used to do, as a lot of tarot readers do, I'd go around and do readings at a lot of fairs, psychic fairs, as they used to be called, and all the holistic shows and all of that. And I was doing one, this was when I lived in Winchester. I'm in Poole now, in Dorset. But this was when I lived in Winchester in Hampshire, and I was doing this big show in Reading, it was, as I remember. And as you do, in between the readings, you get chatting to the stall holders either side of you. And there was a publisher who had recently started producing books to one side, and we were chatting to them. And I'd written it was about 30 odd pages, I think, of notes on the full moon. I used to run a full moon meditation group until the pandemic and lockdown started. That still carried on, here. But the people that used to come to that would ask me for notes about each moon. So I typed up all this stuff. Anyway, we were talking to these publishers, and I'd explained this, and I said, they said, oh, we'll have a look at it if you like, and we can offer you, we'll edit it for you, tell you, whatever. So, okay, great. So I brought it in the following day, and they took it away. And a couple of weeks later, they phoned me and said, well, this is great. If you can double its size, we'll publish it as a book for you. Brilliant. I was amazed. I actually tripled its size, but they were okay with that. And that was the first book about meditating with the full moon. By then, I was getting more and more into tarot, and I wanted to do a tarot book. And they said, oh, no, this book's done quite well. Why don't you do another book on meditation? So I did. I wrote a book called Practical Meditation, which had loads and loads of meditations people could do. So it was, the idea of that was down to earth, everyday meditations people can do. And those are still out there, they're ticking along nicely. But then I, wanted to do a book about tarot. That was something I'd wanted to do right the way through my 20s. And so I wrote a book that by then the whole idea of tarot as therapy really had evolved more in my head. So I wrote the first volume, Tarot Therapy Volume 1, which came out in 1999, which is the sort of theory and practice of tarot as therapy, really. And it was only, I don't know, what was it, about 2012, I think, something like that. I did volumes 2 and then volume 3 on that tarot therapy series. I'm wanting to do now a tarot therapy workbook, but at the moment, you have these ideas and plans, and then the universe comes along and says, actually, you're doing that next, which is what happened. And I'm about 2/3 of the way through a book called Tarot for Grief, which is about how we can work with the tarot to help process grief, because I've had my own, very dramatic grief experience. My daughter sadly died at the start of this year, so it's something that's really helped me deal with that.
Condolences, Steve.
Thank you. As an instinct for me was to turn to the tarot to help. I practice what I preach, and I thought, well, there's got to be a book. Somebody must have written about this. How can I work with the tarot? And I couldn't find one. So I thought, well, okay, I'll do it. I'm doing this anyway. I'll just write down. So that's what I've been doing.
You as in this book, you are actually putting out tarot cards, like asking questions to your daughter or try to communicate with her.
No, not really that, although we have done that. My wife had a reading with a lady who does trance mediumship and had a lovely, beautiful conversation with our daughter, which was, wonderful. No, this is more about, I've explained the background and how people can work with the tarot when they're dealing with grief, but I'm then writing about each card as we could respond to it and understanding it in our grief. Excuse me, let me give you an example again. I have the card I'm working on at the moment. I keep the cards I select in this perspex stand on my desk, so it protects the card, because I'm like that about my cards. And take the card out. This card is the 7 of Swords. We had the 8 for you, and I've got the 7. So I'm using cards from different decks. This is the 7 of Swords, and this is a card for me that represents all those deep buried thoughts we daren't express to everyone, all the dark thoughts and things we daren't say or admit to ourselves. And so this is helping me come to terms with a lot of what's going on in the back of my mind. And I can write those down if I don't want to, can't bear to admit them, or express them to people. Then I can explain those.
I'm actually coach therapist, so I'm counselor and psychotherapist as well. So if you need me, I will be there for you.
Bless you. Thank you. That's really good of you. Thank you. But it's something I've found, you know, the tarot is a massive help for that, because it enables me. I often say, you know, when you get to know tarot, when you get to work with it, they become a deck becomes like 78 friends, you know, and they know you better than you know yourself. You know, they always tell you the truth. They never ever let me down. And you may need some honesty with yourself when you're working with the cards, because they will tell you the truth. They will tell you exactly how it is. They won't shy away from the difficult stuff. You know, but equally they're not about making bad predictions, you know, and all of that, because some people will say to me, oh, what do you do if you see something bad in the cards? I'll say, I'll explain it to the client and we'll work on it together. You know, life is not, but I don't really see the cards as good or bad. They're just energy, and energy just is. It's about how we respond to it again. We have experiences that are, but we could see them as good or bad, or file them as positive or negative, but they're just life. You know, it's what happens, and it's what matters is how we respond to it. So it's hopefully helping people to give them choices, you know. So it works that way for me, and what I do is just try and pass that on and help other people do the same thing, really.
I don't know. I have tarot cards myself, but
Yeah.
I never get deep into it.
Mm.
Time and time again, in worst moments, probably I will bring them out, but
Yeah.
I do not trust what I'm getting, because
Yeah.
my feeling is, um, when somebody else, let's say you do reading for me, yeah,
Yeah.
you not energetically on any way involved in my life,
Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
so you are like completely free channel.
Yes.
Each one connects with my higher self, with my energy, yeah,
Absolutely.
and just you reading me,
Yeah.
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 And okay, then I can look at the cards together with you, and then I figure it out
Yeah.
how I interpret everything what you see. But
Yes.
when I doing, let's say, I try to put some reading for myself,
Yeah.
I feel that it could be false, because
Mm.
I'm too involved in this. I
Yeah.
want, let's say, I want this love of my life walk in
Yeah.
doors next month. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I,
Mm.
that's just examples. Thank you.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
don't need love of
yeah.
my life, because I do have it.
Yeah.
So
Got him. Yeah.
thank you. But as an example, I just like I want this to happen.
Yeah.
I want. So my
Mm.
energy would be concentrated at that moment of I do want, not about will it happen or how it happened, but I want this to happen. So
Yes. Yeah.
cards maybe respond on this energy.
Yeah, I think it can be quite easy to do that. You know, we all want to see what we want to see, you know, and we all want the nice stuff all the time. But like I say, the first thing is, in my experience, tarot doesn't do that anyway. But for me, you maybe need to know the tarot a bit. That obviously can help, because when you do, then you know what it's telling you really. But I think that the main thing is you have to be honest with yourself. You know, I think that it's when you have a certain sort of spirituality about you, you're very closely connected to your conscience. You know, for me, our conscience is a bit like the voice of spirit, you know, the spirit world or the universe or God or whatever you call it. And we know inside, we can sense it, you know, when something's true or not. So we can look at a card and maybe we can sort of try and manipulate and shape it. But if we're really honest with ourselves, you know, inside, you know, whether that's you convincing yourself or not. So my response to that is, yeah, just be honest, because I know the tarot will do that for you. It does that if we approach it in the right way, but sometimes that can be about what we're asking as well. And you need to sort of learn, I think, to phrase your questions, because the best kind of what we put out is what we get back. That's how the universe works. We all know this. So the tarot responds best, if you like, or the whole thing operates best, not when we're asking a question that will tell us either what to do or say yes or no. So, for me, let's follow in your example. Someone comes to me and says, I want to meet the love of my life, and all of that. When am I going to meet this person? I don't know, but let's look at the issues around that for you. So my question is more, what's stopping you? What are the things around you that means you haven't drawn this love of your life into your life now? And it's not about them, it's always about the client, because we know this. As therapists, we know this. It's always about us. So it shifts the whole thing around, rather than it being out there, it's inside, and that's where the tarot will connect to. So it's really just connecting people to their truth in here. It's always in there. So we can learn to do that when we learn tarot a little bit easier, but it will do it, whether you know tarot or not. So
do you really think that everybody can actually read tarot, and you don't need really know the meaning of the tarot?
Yes and no. I think that everybody can, but it's to what level you want to do it. I think it's a similar thing to where some people have a natural aptitude for things. Some people are naturally talented in sport or in music or in cooking or whatever it might be. Mine appears to be tarot, well, I hope anyway, because it just speaks to me that way, but I think in terms of I don't think it's about being psychic, because I think that is really just our intuition. It's not a gift for special people. I don't buy that at all. For me, we've all got that ability. It's part of how the human being is made, and different things can spark it off. Tarot can be one of those, and that works for me. So for some people, they've got it. I can teach pretty much anybody to read tarot, but that bit I can't. That bit that people means they can excel at it. It's a bit like anybody, I suppose, could learn the chords to play a piano or a guitar, but how to link those chords together and make a tune that sounds great, maybe I'm not a musician, but maybe that's something you can't teach someone. It's just there in them. They can hear it in their head and make it happen with their fingers. I can't, but some people can. And there's that bit with tarot. So everybody can do it, but if you really want to learn it, you've got to study the structure of the tarot and a lot more besides. But that's all in my courses.
And you at the moment doing some courses?
Yes, because they are distance learning, and obviously the likes of us have had to change how we work. I've had the distance learning courses for a long time to learn tarot, but yeah, for tarot therapy, I do an introduction course, which is a shorter course for people if they don't know tarot at all and they just want to see, so it will teach you the basics. If people want to learn to do this more professionally and do readings for other people, then there's a certificate in tarot therapy course, which is a bigger course. It takes you right from the beginning, but right the way through every card. There are guided journeys through the tarot with me talking you through meditations. There's all sorts of work. But again, what the courses don't do is tell you what the cards mean. There are various exercises and work. Well, I don't know what they mean for you. I know what they represent for me, but that changes each time I use it to a degree, you know.
Then you don't, sorry, I jump in, then you
Yeah.
don't agree with books like if you buy in tarot card deck, you usually have some tarot Bibles, some tarot explanation with it, yeah? Do you want to say that this one you don't believe it's actually really real? You need to feel yourself?
Ultimately, yes, but I think that everybody's got something to offer, you know, that the author who's written that book, if it's based on a deck, can be really useful because they can explain why they've chosen to draw or show a particular card like that. And so they can explain the energy for me behind it. And each tarot book has that author's opinion, if you like, or their view. And we can learn from all of those. But in terms of our own understanding, that's what really matters. So in the courses I'm teaching, you do various exercises and you make your own notes. You know, obviously, if it's way off, I'm going to say, look, I think you're maybe approaching this wrong. Why don't you have a look at it this way? But it's about the individual student coming to their own understanding of the cards, because that's what's going to work best for them. So it's, again, it's not about learning 78 card meanings and committing them to memory and then just repeating those each time that card appears. It's an individual intuitive art, and the skill, if you like, comes in how those cards link together. And that's where the intuitive bit, the bit I can't teach, can come up. People either get that or they don't. But you do lots of practice readings anyway. So by the end of it, you've got it. So there's that, and there's an advanced diploma course for people that really get into it and want to do, you know, a deeper, stronger work with it. So yeah, people can see those on my tarot therapy website. You can look at those.
All your details for everybody who wants to check in what Steve does. All details is below the video. So
yeah, thank you. Good.
All information
But
you have.
I have to say I'm really excited actually, because a couple of years ago I did a course called Transformation Through Tarot, which again you can access via the website, where the chap called Philip Cargom, who was the creator or co-creator of the Druidcraft Tarot, which is a hugely popular deck, and he's written loads of books and is brilliantly knowledgeable about loads of things. And we did this course together, which was about how people can use the tarot for personal transformation. It took you through the deck in different stages. Anyway, that did really well, and well, it still is. It's still out there. But we are very soon going to release a new course, which we haven't really put out, so not many people know about this yet, which is called Tarot and Chakras. So it's working with the tarot to work through your different chakras. And so this weekend we are going to do some filming for the different lessons, introductory little videos and so on, which we're going to film on a yacht in Poole Harbour. Philip knows somebody who owns a yacht, so I'm on the yacht in Poole Harbour this weekend. So
I'm very happy to go with you.
Well, I'm hoping that it doesn't. Well, I'm hoping that the weather doesn't get too stormy. It should be good. So that's going to be out soon. That'll be on the website before too long, a little later in the year, end of summer, something like that, hopefully. I'm not sure. But yeah, so that's all exciting as well.
Brilliant. That's brilliant. Exciting moment for you.
Yeah, it's good. I've been wanting to get this, new course done for quite a long time, and various things have happened in my life and in Philip's life, and now it's the right time, clearly, because this is getting to happen, and then a little bit more work to do with it, and we'll get it out there. So yeah, it's good. So one thing I referred to earlier, Daiga, it might be good if I can share for people is I mentioned the structure of the tarot and why I work with it. So can we perhaps go through that, so that people can get the idea?
Let's go back to that. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. Good. So, as I said earlier, the tarot has got 78 cards. That's in a standard, a normal pack of tarot. It does vary because people add cards and take cards away and change it, you know, because there's not a rule book to tarot that says this is how you must do it, you know. But so everybody's free to change it and do what they want. But the main accepted form of tarot is a 78 card deck. Now that's divided into two parts called the major and the minor arcana. Now the word arcana just means hidden or secret. So it's like arcane, something that's really old and obscure. So major and minor is like a big and a little secret. So the minor arcana, if we start with that, that's divided into 4 suits, very similar to playing cards, but they have different names than the playing card suit. So in the tarot, the usual names are pentacles, cups, swords, and wands. All right, they vary a bit, but those are the main suit names. In each of those suits, there are 14 cards. So you have an extra court card. So in playing cards, you have the Jack, Queen, and King. In the tarot, you have usually a page, a knight, a queen, and a king. Sometimes it can be a prince and princess rather than a page and a knight, but 4 court cards. And you have ace through to 10, same as in playing cards. Okay, so 4 suits, 14 cards each. So that's 56 cards out of the total 78 in the deck. Now, the thing for me is that a tarot deck is really the same structure energetically as a human being. So you could split the human being into 4 parts, if you like: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. Okay. So each of those suits relates to each of those one of those 4 parts of the human being. So in other words, the suit of pentacles, through the element of earth, they're based on the 4 elements: earth, air, fire, and water. So pentacles, through the element of earth, relates to the physical aspect of the human being. So that can be our physical bodies, but it's our everyday life. It's what we're doing with our bodies, the practical things that we do. Okay, so cards that appear from the suit of pentacles tell me what's going on the everyday level in someone's life and the physical energies they might be having. Okay, so then we have the suit of cups, which relates to the element of water, which I'm going to take a swig of while I think of it. So the suit of cups, the element of water, and that relates to our feelings, to the emotions we're having. So when cups cards come out in a reading, then we get what's happening emotionally for that person, the emotional energies that they're experiencing. Then we have the suit of swords, the element of air, and that's what's going on in our minds. So when the swords cards appear in a reading, those show me the mental energies, what's happening for the client mentally, in their brain, in their minds, what the thinking is, how that's affecting them, and again, how they can respond to it. That's the suit of swords. Then we have the suit of wands, and that's the element of fire, and that's the spiritual level. Now, by that, it's the spirit within them, or the fire within them, if you like. So this is their inspiration, their drive, their motivation, the fire that's pushing them on. You know, it's not spirit as in spiritual, as in the higher self that you mentioned. It's not that. This is the spirit within them. Okay, so creative inspiration, drive, motivation, ambition, what they're pushing for in life. Okay, so when those cards appear, it tells me what's happening at that level. Okay, so that's the minor arcana, those 56 cards of 4 suits. So that's a human being. When we put those 4 levels together, we get the whole or the complete human being. So for me, that's following the holistic idea of the whole being greater than the sum of the parts. That's what the other 22 cards, the major arcana, represent. So for me, the major arcana cards represent what I call the soul level, or the spiritual in that sense, if you like, that higher self. So these cards represent the things that affect our entire being. Okay, so these are the cards where it starts with the Fool, and then you have the Magician and the High Priestess and so on. And this is, you know, you have Death and the Devil, the Lovers, all of those. So, and those, they're not more important than anything else, because all of our levels are equally important, you know. But it's just that the energies of these cards impact our whole self. So there may be bigger lessons that we're here to learn, or deeper, more powerful issues, if you like, the things that can shape the overall direction of our life. But they're all equally important. All right, so that's the structure energetically, how you can see, you know, the structure of a tarot deck for me is the same as a structure of a human being. So what I then do, rather than working with a specific spread or a pattern, you know, a layout like you see in the books, I find that those, because I'm working with the cards just as an energy, I find that they restricted what I wanted to explain and say to people. So what I tend to do is I literally fan out the cards just in an arch, really, an arc, and I invite the client to pick some, you know, and there can be however many they feel is right for them. That varies. It's entirely up to them. If I'm doing reading with somebody by Zoom, which obviously the last couple of years has become very common, then I will ask them if they have a particular number of cards they would like. If they don't, I might do it myself intuitively, and the cards will show me when I fan them out, different ones I'm led to, and they will, you know, present themselves, poke out a bit or whatever. Or I will roll 2 dice and they will show me which is the number to work with. So the number of cards, and then they're not arranged in a pattern. If the client's here for me, very often when the client is picking them out of the whole deck, without realizing it, they will organize them into a particular layout anyway, which always becomes, you know, significant somehow. And I'll always let them do that. I'll just sit back, you get on with it, you do what you like, don't throw them around the room, but other than that, do what you like with them, you know. And then we will work with them. You know, I do a thing very often where I call it energy balancing. So to start with, I'll have a look to see, well, have we got cards from every part of the deck? Is there a major card to show me, are they learning what's going on at the moment? You know, what is happening with their soul at that level? If there is a suit missing, then it may indicate they need to pay attention to that. You know, as an example, if let's say there are no cups cards, I might, you know, we'll explore whatever their subject and question is, and I might say, well, how do you feel about that? If there are no cups cards, usually the response is, I don't really know. No, I know that. You need to connect and ask yourself, what am I feeling here? Because you're not paying attention to this, it would seem. And I say, no, I'm not, you know, I don't know. So it's kind of like that. And equally, let's say the subject of their reading is about relationships. If there aren't any cups cards, I'm wondering why. Where are the emotions in this relationship here? Something's not right, you know. So it sort of gives you an idea. If there's an emphasis on one particular suit, that'll show that that's where the issue lies, you know. And again, or the absence of it. If in a relationship, whether that's a romantic relationship or a relationship with a boss, there are no swords, it would appear there's not much communication going on and they need to talk to each other more, you know. Have you actually asked this person what the problem is with you, you know, and this kind of thing. So it'll give me an idea, but I'll also look to see, are there multiples of numbers? You know, let's say if there are 2 cards of the number 4 from different suits, then 4 can sometimes be about stuck energies, you know, so it might be that they're really stuck with whatever's going on. They need something to come along and create a shift and a change. So we'll look at that. Equally, if it's two number nines, then it may be that whatever the subject is has gone as far as it's going to go, and something needs to give and be released from it. 9 is about it's the highest single number, so it's the peak of achievement very often, and that might need celebrating and recognizing. Then it can evolve into something, and then that will depend on where in the reading they are. If that's the first 2 cards are number 9, then it can indicate maybe this has gone as far as it's going to get, and something new needs to be opened up to. If the 2 9s are at the end of the cards the clients picked, there's still a way to go. There's still more to learn and grow here. So it gives you an overall energy balancing, as I call it, an overall image of what's going on. Then we'll break that down and work through card by card. So, and that where I'll issue homework. So hopefully by the end of it, the client goes away with homework to do, some exercises and stuff they can work on, but they will feel more empowered and equipped to deal with whatever's going on in their life that they've asked about. So that's 10 minutes or whatever it was I've just talked for.
It actually sounds much better than just leave somebody with... in your future, you will get your love of your life in 10 months, maybe. Yeah, but well, then, you don't know what to do for it.
Yeah. Well, when people sort of say that, my response is yes, but what happens if they don't? Where are you then? They might not, because we can change our minds. Somebody might, in going out looking for the love of their life, they might go somewhere they've never been before, and they suddenly get an idea of, I don't like doing this. I'm going to do something different with my life. And they go off, traveling on a yacht or something. I'm not going to do that. I like where I am. I'm staying here.
Yeah. Everything is possible because you will go on yacht soon. So.
Yeah, but I can't even swim, so I'm not gonna.
You're not going far then.
I'm not going far. I love being by the water. I've always lived. I grew up by the sea in Brighton, and I've apart from one short time in my life, I've always lived near the sea, and I love it. It's something in the air, and the tidal energies and everything get to you. So, but I don't like being on it.
Me too. I love water. I need to be by water.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? But it's beautiful. I can cycle and run along by the beach. It's a beautiful part of the world here. We've got miles of beach, sandy beaches you can go along to. It's gorgeous. But yeah, that's close enough for me.
We are very, very lucky. I'm so grateful I am in where I am. So
where are you?
Beautiful. I'm in Beta.
In where? Sorry.
Beta Pool, Beta Park.
Oh right, I didn't realise you were so. Oh, you're closer to it than me. I didn't realise you were local to me. I thought you were somewhere else.
And when you're talking about cycling, I do cycling, and at the moment I'm not very sure I like cycling or I just like see sunrises.
Yeah.
At the moment, I'm hooked on the sunrise.
Well, it's the perfect day for it. It's summer solstice, so absolutely perfect. But it's beautiful down there, Beta Park. Yeah, I mean, you may well see me running or cycling. I'm down there quite often, and running around there. So yeah, stop me, shout at me if you see me going by.
Seeing each other and
it's quite possible. Yeah. Well, Pool Park is where I play tennis. Tuesday mornings, I'm usually down there. Beautiful setting. What a beautiful place to be.
Absolutely gorgeous. I every day when I'm from moment I'm waking up till moment I'm going to bed, 100 times per day or more, I always say thank you to universe.
Absolutely.
I end up where I end up because it's gorgeous.
Yeah, I mean, when I cycle down to play tennis, every time I turn into the park, I get that feeling, and I'm like that. It's just so lovely. Yeah, beautiful. It's a lovely part.
Swans and ducks and geese and
yes.
I was in the morning all those geese was with little ones around on the
Yeah,
greens.
yeah,
And I have so many pictures of little geese and swans.
yeah. On the lakes there as well. It
Mm,
is so lovely. Yeah,
it is beautiful. So everybody who are watching us, please visit Pooh.
come and
It
visit.
is
It's
a
beautiful. Yes,
beautiful place.
yeah, it is
It
lovely.
is really beautiful place.
Yeah,
Uh, we talk about tarot cards and about your books.
yeah.
Can we talk how you came up with tarot decks?
Ah, yes.
Could you
Mm.
maybe show your tarot decks and what's the difference between your tarot decks and others?
Yes, yeah, because it's something. Again, the more I worked with tarot and this idea of tarot as therapy sort of evolved, it was really hard to find a deck that expressed the ideas I was getting and what I was saying about the cards, and I couldn't find a deck that was all the cards were in keeping with that way of working and how I work. So, and for me, because, when I was explaining the structure of the cards, they are the elements, the earth, air, fire, and water parts of us. I thought, well, the best way of showing that and following on from what we were just saying, the beauty of how it is in Poole, and around the seafront, Beta, where Daiga said she lives, is a part literally that is onto the seafront and Poole Harbour, and it's all just beautiful down there. And I thought, well, this is where, for me, I get my inspiration, the natural world. And that's where I'm seeing the energy of these cards. So that's what I did, basically, is created a deck that is just using the energy and the inspiration of nature as tarot cards. So I literally took the elements and put them into tarot decks. So it's a very different deck. So the Fool and the Major Arcana, the first deck of the Fool, usually has a person who's standing on the edge of a cliff, and they're about to step over that cliff and begin their adventure journeying through a path. So the Fool card in my deck is called the Canyon, and that is a photograph taken at the edge of Grand Canyon, the Colorado River, the yellow reflected in the sunrise there. And that's an image, these were all freely available. I took and made a few changes here and there on the computer. And it's a photo there taken from the edge of Grand Canyon, which is a place I've been and stood, and it's incredibly awe-inspiring, and amazing. I won't tell you what I said when I saw it. It's in the book. It's rude, but it's very inspiring. So for me, and then the elements, the Ace of Wands, for me, the element of fire begins with a spark. So there's lots of sparks in that Ace of Wands. So it's like, what is sparking you here, So each of the cards tell the journey of the elements. This one, just picking it up, is the 10 of Cups. So water at the end of its journey turns into vapor. So all we can see is clouds and the sun burning the water into vapor. The 3 of Cups is the next one. I've just, picking up cards at random. The 3 of Cups is a spring where it comes out of the ground. It's a lovely image, that, isn't it? Yeah. So it's where it's coming out of the ground and it's all creative and flowing, the energy of the 3 emotionally. So we look at it and people get good feelings and inspiration. Mm-hmm. Then the major cards. I showed you the Fool. This is card 3 of the Major Arcana. I call it the Rainforest. So this would be the Empress, Mother Earth. So we've got the water here, but all this creativity and the sunlight shining down in the rainforest. It's very hard to see because the cards are shiny and it picks up the reflected light. So for me, this is a deck. I didn't know what to call it. The tarot of nature, the nature tarot. And I was discussing this over dinner one evening with my wife, and she looked at me and she said, well, why don't you just call it the tarot therapy deck? I was like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Hadn't occurred to me at all, but she was great. So she got that one bang on. So that's the tarot therapy deck. It's an expression of the energy in nature in the tarot. So that was the first card. I'd always, I'd worked with the tarot for so long. I always wanted to create a tarot deck, and then I did, and it was brilliant. It took a couple of years, and there's a book to go with it, the Tarot Therapy deck, if I bring it back a bit. It's a huge book, 440 odd pages. I had a lot to say, but it takes you through every card and explains why that part of nature, how it works, and how we can use it and all that. So then I got to do another deck a few years ago, which was working with an artist called Patrick Gamble. You can look him up online, and you'll see his website. But he's a sort of visionary artist, really, and he sometimes paints pictures of people's guides and our loved ones in spirit. But his story, very briefly, because I know we're kind of running out of time, but his story was that he was
running out of time, Steve.
Oh, okay. I did warn you I talk a lot when I get going. But Patrick was a builder by trade, and he, with his colleagues, the building trade, was clearing out a garage, and there was a box of oil paints. And somebody said, does anybody want this? So Pat said, oh, yeah, I'll take them home. And he was messing about with them to see if he could paint. And he suddenly discovered that he could. And he has, worked with that over the years, but he only paints in oils. The reason being, his guide was, when he was here, a chap called John, I think, was a painter who painted only in oils. So he does all this stuff in oils. It's amazing to see. But he had created his own oracle card deck, not a tarot deck. And he was here once doing readings for people. We used to have him come once a year. And I was looking through this oracle deck, and I said, Pat, haven't you thought of doing a tarot deck? Because half of these images are really very like tarot cards. And he said to me, well, yeah, he said, I have thought about it. People have said that to me, but I don't know the tarot. I said, well, I do. I said, I'll tell you what to put where and suggest, and you can do what you like with that, and I'll write a book, and between us we can do it. So that's what we did, which was a joy to work with. I had Pat's amazing tarot card image. This is the card of the Hermit, with Pat's amazing artwork, and all I did was suggested what he could put where. Here's the Three of Cups. Again, you can't see all the detail in these cards on the webcam here because there's so much. This is his image of the High Priestess. I don't know. It's
beautiful.
Yeah, and there's so much detail in them when you see them, clearly. So he did all of that with the cards, with my suggestions, and then I wrote the book, which explains them and how to work with them. Different readings you can do with them and so on, and that came out a few years ago, and there we are. So it was an absolute joy. Patrick was so easy to work with because I said, well, can you do this? Yeah, sure, I can do that. He's such a lovely guy. And we produced that, and that's, again, they're all available on the website. But
what about where you can buy those cards?
You can get those. You can get them direct from me on the website or Patrick's website, or on Amazon. If you're not local, you can order them from anywhere in the world on Amazon. But the most direct way will be through my website.
The details is below the video, so everybody who wants Steve's cards and books, websites, websites address is below the video.
Yep, you can just go into the shop on there, and you'll see it all on there. There's loads of other things as well.
Is there anything else, Steve, what you want to tell our viewers today?
Well, if you're curious and wanting to get into tarot more, but you don't know which deck to get, because that can be a big thing. There are thousands of tarot decks available now. And my advice is go for the deck you like the most. There's not one deck you should have. The most popular deck is the Rider-Waite Tarot. I personally I find it very dated. It came out over 100 years ago in 1910. I don't relate that well, but lots of packs are derived from it. You know, they use the ideas in it, but put much more modern ideas in, and that's really good. I kind of collect decks, so I have kind of about 230 odd decks, but I use them for research, and I created a deck from lots of different decks. So the deck I work with as my main reading deck, sometimes I work with my own, obviously, but it's made up from about, I don't know, 16, 20 odd different decks that I scanned them in, and I made some changes on the computer where I could, and then have them printed properly. So it's my own bespoke tarot. But if you've a particular line of interest, say there's lots of medieval decks, but there are things like Game of Thrones tarot, Alice in Wonderland has a tarot deck. There's loads of things. So if there's, you know, you like cats, there's cats tarots and dog tarots and, you know, all sorts. So if there's a particular thing, research it, look it up on the internet. There's probably a tarot deck for it. But go with the card, the deck that you like the look of. If you just, you know, Google it and spend some time researching, you'll find, you know, loads and loads and loads of tarot. And go with the one you like the look of, because that's the one you're going to communicate with best. But be warned, it gets addictive. You'll end up with 230 odd decks. There are people with a lot more than that.
Oh no! Don't get me in.
Don't blame me. Don't blame me. It's your choice, not my fault.
Yeah, of course, not your fault. You're just inviting everybody to do
Absolutely,
that.
Yeah.
Okay. On this note, we finish today, and I hope Steve will be back with us with some more knowledge about tarot and everything else later. And thank you everybody for watching. And if you like, please like, share, and subscribe my YouTube videos. Also, if you would like, you can contribute and spare some coffee and coffee with cake with us. So from our hearts to yours, thank you very much for watching, and God bless.